meeting you right where you are on your foster care journey. This is the Forgotten Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Forgotten Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Cabe, and I am so happy to be with you. If you are part of the foster care community, passionate about serving, or simply interested in learning more, we are here for you. In every episode of this podcast, you will hear stories from men and women who have experienced foster care to one degree or another. They may have grown up in the system, are caseworkers, foster parents, or others who are here to bring you hope or encouragement. If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe and share it with a friend. And remember, you are not alone. I hope you enjoy the Forgotten Podcast. Well, Sarah, I am so happy to have you on the show today. You are a second-generation foster parent. And what I mean by that is you grew up in a home where your parents fostered. In fact, you were only 12 when they first welcomed in children, and in your home, you had over 40 kids through your home. And I can't wait to hear more about this in a little bit. You're also a wife, mom of 4 teens. You're a therapeutic foster mom, and you wear a number of other hats, speaker, author, coach. It is clear to me, just by getting to know you a little bit through my research, that you have a heart to pour into people. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yes.
So I would just love to hear, first of all, like, you are 12 years old, which is a very challenging age anyways, right? What was it like to have your parents say, we're going to become foster parents? And yeah, tell us.
Yeah. Just to add to that, I was the youngest of 4, but my older siblings were 11, 13, and 15 years older than me. So
older than you?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Surprise. They say it's a wonderful surprise, and I believe them. My parents did. So I was already, because with that age gap, I was kind of already on my own at 12. And so they had this big house. They love kids, and God put it on their hearts to foster. So they kind of just told me this is what they were going to do. And I was kind of like, sure, sounds great. I was kind of like an only child in some ways. Sure. So the thought of having other kids around sounded good. Until those kids, stole my stuff and, ruined some things. But I think one of our first was a baby. So, 12, I was like kid crazy. I was just starting to babysit. And so it was like, yeah, babies, this is really fun. So there was a lot of joy in that. And there was a lot of, why did you have this kid come into my home? Sure. They were, as you know, Jamie, foster kids come with trauma. Sure. And that trauma can come out in misbehaviors and just, very unlovable situations. So it was, there was a lot of things that I loved about being a foster sister, and a lot of things that were kind of like awkward and difficult and challenging. But through it all, and probably because I was older when my parents started fostering, I really got to see how they loved these difficult children and how they used the gifts that God gave them, the ability to love these kids, even though it was hard at times, and the way that they were just able to just follow God's calling with these kids just made a huge impact on me.
Also, what impacted these kids coming in? How did that shift your perspective? Like, how did the kids change you too, or teach you?
It really opened my eyes to a world outside my little middle class home. Yeah. We were pretty typical. We didn't have a lot of money, but we didn't have, we weren't, I was comfortable. Yeah. I had a comfortable existence. My parents were able to send me to a private high school. I played sports. Life wasn't too difficult for me.
Yeah.
All things considered. And seeing these kids who, through no fault of their own, had these horrible experiences. Some had been sexually abused, some physically abused, and just sheer neglect of their basic needs was just like shocking. Who could treat kids this way?
Yeah.
And just seeing that despite coming from an horrific, sometimes really horrific background, these kids still wanted to go home. And to me, that was a real eye opener and just to see the real need for foster families, for that kind of almost like a halfway house in a sense. They need that safe place to be where hopefully their parents can overcome whatever it was that neglect or of housing situations or whatever it is, and return to home or move to that next adoptive place.
As a child, as a teenager yourself, it's hard to have that bigger perspective always, right? I'm wondering about when kids would do things that were not fun or not nice, stealing your stuff. Were you able to have any sort of bigger perspective, or at that time, was it more like, I'm just mad?
Sometimes. Yeah. I mean, and I remember one girl, she stole a pearl ring that my mom had given me. My parents had given me for my turn 13. It was just, and I didn't wear it all the time. I'm not a big, huge jewelry person, and playing sports, I just didn't wear it a lot. And then she took it and sold it, and it was gone. And I just remember crying about that. That really hurt.
Yeah.
And my parents, when those things happened, they didn't dismiss my fears. They didn't dismiss my hurt, but they did kind of remind me, hey, these kids don't know how to be in a family. These kids don't understand always that these things are wrong. They have an unmet need, and sometimes they meet it in a way that's painful to others. And that helped. I mean, it still hurt. It was still frustrating. I didn't like having and it wasn't a constant thing, and it wasn't every kid, it was sometimes some things that I liked stuff would, go missing or be destroyed or, and it really helped me just to remind myself that people matter, stuff doesn't. And it didn't always sink in, but it's been very helpful as a foster parent myself now to go, people matter, stuff doesn't.
Yeah, I love that. So you experienced foster care as a foster sibling, right? So why did you want to become a foster parent?
That's a great question. No, so I guess I saw, like I said before, I saw the need for it. And I told when my husband and I were dating, I kind of said to him, if you're not interested at all in fostering, I'm not sure we can go any further, because I always felt that it was something that I really wanted to do at some point.
Yeah.
But I was willing to wait until God kind of tapped his heart and gave him that same vision. Because I'm a firm believer, if you're married, you cannot foster on your own.
Yes.
Both people need to be right there. So it took a little while for him. And then we have 4 bio kids of our own. So in 2018, the fall, we were at a festival. I had a booth selling doll clothes, which I used to do with my mom. And he comes running up to the booth and he's like, hey, I met someone I think we should foster. Wow. And I just started cracking up. Oh, that was really funny. I was like, okay, let's explore.
Wow. It just flipped for him.
Yeah, it did. Just meeting someone at the right moment. We're with a private agency. With the right moment, talking to them just clicked with him. Our kids were older. it was, a little easier at home. But yeah, I guess just the timing was just right for us. So we went to information session, heard about how they all needed teenagers. We're like, well, we have a couple of girls were teens then. We're like, sure, let's invite more teens into our house. And we went to the training, all the things you have to do. And I will say one thing about the training. So we're in the training, and the woman is talking about all the stuff that can happen when you have foster kids. There's disruption of your life. There's trauma. There's a lot of stuff that goes on that I was pretty familiar with.
Sure.
And my husband wasn't. He goes, "Am I inviting chaos into my home?"
Yes, you are.
Yeah. What the woman said, just says no. She goes, "I like to think you're inviting opportunity."
Oh, I love that.
And I love that rephrasing. Yes, it is chaotic. Any foster parent who tells you otherwise is lying. But when we think about it as inviting opportunity, and I think that just really encapsulated why we want to foster. We're inviting that opportunity into our home so that we can help a child in need. And so that's kind of why I just really have felt that is a calling. Now, I don't know how long we'll foster. Nobody does, I don't think.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And it really is an outward focus. It's comes first as believers. It's directly from the heart of God to care for those who don't have someone to care for them. And as Christians, we're welcomed, invited to live not for ourselves, but to live for others, to live for God. And I think that's incredible.
The one book that was really helpful, and it's not a fostering book, but you've probably heard of it. The Gospel Comes with a House Key.
Yes.
By Rosario Butterfield. And I've read her books. And then our women's group at church kind of read it as a kind of a summer book clubby thing. And this was, might have been the summer or two before my husband got tapped by God to foster. And I just was reading that, and it was just like restirring that need to foster, that need to welcome the quote other into our homes. And one of the things that surprised me about fostering was how many people beyond the child that we impact. And I just hadn't, as a foster sibling, I kind of only saw the social worker occasionally and the foster kid.
Sure.
I mean, I was limited in that, appropriately so.
Sure.
But I just didn't realize all the other people that we invite into our homes, that we interact with, that we tell a little bit of our story to. And a part of our story is Christ, right?
Yeah.
The following the gospel. There's the social worker, there's our caseworker, there's the guardian ad litem, the kid's attorney, there's the CASA worker who's, is a volunteer who helps the kids. There's the teachers, there's the ABA therapist, the list goes on. And then the bio parents and the parent coach that you meet. I mean, there's so many people that we touch because of us fostering. And I think sometimes we get focused on the kid as it should be, but there's a whole host of people that we're impacting by how we foster this child. Yes. And that we're able to point them to Christ sometimes is just amazing.
It is. It is. I agree completely. I mean, we here at TFI, we're all about the foster care community because, and we really hone in on the groundwork that we do and really pouring into agency workers.
Yes.
Because those workers, similar to a foster parent, are in direct connection with kids. Right. And so if you can care for, encourage, add value to a worker, it just continues on and it supports a child at the same time.
Yes. Yeah. And it does. And they meet so many different foster parents, and I guess I've kind of made it my goal is if I can make their job easier, I will.
Yeah.
if I cannot be super needy, I will, right? And there are things that you need, and I tend to be a kind of a hyper organized person. That's my personality.
Yeah.
So it kind of works really well when you're fostering, because there's so many things that you have to kind of keep together. And our current placement is, there's a lot of extra stuff that I have to coordinate. And so that's been helpful, but it's also, that's also been my goal, is just to kind of make their lives a little easier, try to be as accommodating as possible, because they have so many stressors in their life. And the other thing I didn't realize about fostering was how much the agency helps the parents, because that was a piece I never saw.
Sure.
As a foster sibling, that how many, all the services they give to the parents, all the help that they give to them for that reunification, if that's the goal.
Yeah.
And that was really great to see, but I just had no idea that was kind of going on behind the scenes.
Right. Yes. And I'm glad that you shared that. You are also, you're a therapeutic foster parent. So there are different types of foster parents. Will you help our listeners, those who are newer to this, what is a therapeutic foster parent? What does that mean?
Yeah, then that's that we had to get educated on that as well. So there are, I hate to call them regular foster parents, but there are the ones that go to just their fostered, or they're certified through like a county or a city. And then there are ones that are through specific agencies, and we're with a private agency, UMFS. It's only in Virginia.
Okay.
And they're a therapeutic foster agency, which means that we get extra training to help kids who have higher needs.
Okay.
And that could just be that they're teenagers, because teenagers are harder to place.
Yeah, sure.
Or it could be like our first foster placement was an autistic child, preschooler. And our second one is actually autistic as well. So it could be that they have that sort of diagnosis that makes them more challenging in some ways. So we get a little extra support from our private agency as well as the social worker. But also we receive extra training to help us handle the children who have higher needs.
What caused you to pursue therapeutic foster care?
Well, I mean, it was kind of the agency that my husband kind of met with, and I didn't really understand all that until we went to the first information session and realized, oh, hey, and once I realized that it was a private agency that contracts with the localities around the state, then and when that kind of clicked with me because my parents were just through like their local county.
Got it.
And I was like, oh, so there's more people on our team. This is going to be better. I remember some of my mom's frustrations in trying to get a hold of the social worker. And, they're juggling 6,000 other cases. They're all overwhelmed. So the idea that there was one number to call if we had an emergency and that somebody was going to answer that call. And I was going to get an answer for that. And I was like, oh, yes, sign me up.
Yes.
Sign me up for that. If I'll take tougher cases, if it means I have extra help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So what are some unique realities that you've kind of walked through in this journey of therapeutic foster care?
Just that, again, the need. I mean, I never thought about autistic kids needing a foster home. I mean, sure they would. I mean,
of course,
when
right? But you don't think about it,
of course.
Right?
Why wouldn't you? But I just never kind of put those pieces together, and just the great need for teenagers. I mean, we're hoping we'll get a teen one day. So far, we've had preschoolers.
Really?
But we did say we would consider 0 to 17.
Okay,
that's part of it.
Yep.
We're only in it for fostering. We're at this point we are not interested in adoption. And that sounds really horrible to say sometimes, but it's, and we get asked by we've had 2 placements. We had one that was more than 2 years, and she went to a forever home, different from her biological home. And our second one, we've had almost 17 months, and he's going to not return home as well. And both times they asked us, do you want to adopt them? And it's hard to go, no, but that's not our heart. There's someone else who has that heart for that forever home for them. Our goal is the safe place for now.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember where I was going with that.
Well, we had just kind of talking through some of the unique challenges where it's been more younger kids right now. What you're seeing
for us, it has been younger kids, and that's been a huge challenge. My husband now works from home. He started working from home as soon as we got our current placement.
Okay,
and we got our current placement. He was 4, and in full-time preschool, which was 3 full days, 2 half days, crazy stuff. So we had to find a daycare for him. But given that he's nonverbal and developmentally delayed, that was a challenge. So there was some of those things were a challenge. I didn't think I'd have to worry about daycare options.
Yeah. You've been out of that for a while.
Yes, I haven't had to worry about that. And when he's sick, I'm a freelance writer, I do some coaching, so my schedule is more flexible. That means that I'm on tap for that. And that was unexpected. It's better now that we've had him a while and he's used to us, we're used to him, but it's still challenging. There were days when I was like crying, going, not another snow day. Please. Can the kid go back to school, please? Just keeping it real, Jamie.
It's real. It is real. And I think people will appreciate that.
So some of those challenges we didn't expect. I was expecting mouthy teens who were going to curse a lot. And that was going to be a struggle for us, but, but we haven't had that. And so, we've had like I said, there's other challenges with younger kids. And I think one of the things that I really took from my time as a foster sibling and kind of transferred it to fostering now was how I worked with our bio kids and the foster kids. I've tried to be really deliberate about not asking them to watch the kid, to step up and help, the child too much. They do because they're the sibling and they should, this child is in our home. And so they're part of our family.
For sure.
But I try to be really deliberate about not overly asking them to be the babysitter, the watcher.
Yeah.
For the smaller, entertain the child. Because, my parents did that a lot. I loved kids. And so it wasn't really, I'm not saying it wasn't really an imposition. I was like, give me the baby. I want to hold the baby. I want to play with it, So that kind of thing, I was all in. But I also see that I think maybe they should have been a little more of that boundary between. And so I've tried to have a little more of a boundary.
Yeah.
Between the not the normal, hey, go get him an apple because but I need to do something, you need to watch him. Yeah. That's where I've kind of tried to be more deliberate about not abusing their kind hearts.
Yep.
And my children do have kind hearts toward their foster sibling. And but just to be cognizant of what I'm asking and how much I'm asking.
I think that's cool. And I've heard you mention boundaries there, but I think it's helpful for our listeners to hear foster care, what you choose to do when you step into this world. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Just because you're welcoming a child doesn't mean God is calling you to adopt, like you said. It doesn't mean God is calling you to say, I'm willing to take all the ages. There's you listen to God and be available, and He will bring the kids and children into your home that he wants that are going to help you grow and that you're going to help them grow as well. I think sometimes it's so easy to look in and go, well, I could not foster because I can't do everything,
Right. Yeah, no. And that's a wonderful reminder, Jamie, because God has given us all unique gifts and abilities. And I know and then when we've been asked about these children, we've prayed about it, we've considered it. And we've said, like with our current placement, he had to be moved from his original placement because they had toddlers. They had a toddler, and he, with his developmental delays, he was bigger.
Yeah.
It just wasn't working out for the body. And and the mom, she was like, I still in touch with her. She was like really broken up. I was like, no, your bio kids, you have to, it's not safe for either child in this situation. So, So we had I quote, luxury of having him over for an afternoon just to kind of see how he would fit, which you don't usually get. So, which was nice. I was a little concerned because he doesn't talk. And I was like, how are we going to communicate? But he communicates.
Yeah, just in different ways.
But it just, that kind of is just to know, there's things that we would say no to. If they were known to harm animals, we'd say no because we have 3 cats. If they were known to run away, I would say no. I know that personally, that would be really, 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 really hard for me to handle. Other people I know can handle that better. So there are things that you can say no to. And it's okay to go into it thinking that maybe you only want to do respite. Maybe you only want to do short term. There's a single dad in our agency who only wanted to take older teens who were going to age out of the system. So like 17-year-olds, because he knew, he's like, look, I know I'm happy. And he's great. He's had 2 or 3 placements so far. And he's great because he knows how to kind of help them, usher them into that transition. But it's also, he knows how long they're going to be in his house.
Yep.
And he's like, this is just what I need. This is where and I'm like, that's a sweet spot that's so needed.
Right. Yeah, I think that's good. We're all so very different. Like you said, we're not superhuman. No. Now, sometimes, obviously, we all know this. God calls us to things beyond what we think, but get started. Like if you're feeling like God is calling you to this, step forward. It could be, you could start very small and see, right? Like there is, it's important.
There's and like your organization, and I know there's others that you can even volunteer to like babysit while they have a meeting. And if you just want to see what are these kids like? Yeah. They're like normal kids in a lot of ways. And then they're not, but they are more normal behaviors than not. And they're just extremes sometimes. And they need advocates and the Christian community. And this hurts my heart. I know that's where your heart is as well, Jamie, that, we need Christian families to be willing to get down in the muck and say, I'm here for you. I'm willing to have a messy house, a messy emotional and physical house. I'm willing to get down there and help these hurting families one child at a time. Yes, the system is crazily broken in a lot of ways, but it's the best we've got. And, and it's been great for my kids, for those of you who have bio kids, it has been so great for my kids. Just to see those different than us. And if you're listening to this, you don't know, I'm a white woman. Okay. Our first placement was a little black girl. She was delightful in a lot of ways, and I had to get schooled major time on hair care.
Sure.
Let me tell you. I have long hair. My girls had long hair. I'm like, I know how to do hair. I'm like, no, I did not. And just the willingness. And I'm like, I know nothing teach me. And I think having that attitude and having others in your house, and it was a whole new experience. And I realized that this was hard. I realized I had no books, hardly any children's books with non-white characters.
Yeah.
I was horrified. I mean, my kids checked all those books out of the library, a lot of books out, but I was like, I don't have any books where this child can look at it and see herself.
Wow.
And for me, it was really eye-opening just to realize, oh, I really need to be open to others and people who are not like me, whether it's skin tone or just economic background or whatever it is, because I need that growth. I need to see where I've been, in my own little world too much. And it just was really great for my kids just to have that opportunity. My oldest is now a sophomore in college, and she wrote her college essays about how brave she thought this little girl was. And she had it just was so special just to see her, how much that impacted her life. Just in reading a couple of her essays on it. Yeah. And I had a friend who's one of her sons is near one of my son's ages. And she's like, I'm just so glad you guys foster. She goes, it's just been so helpful for her son to be around a kid like our current placement, just to have that touch. So you think it's just the child you're impacting, and maybe the workers and stuff, but it's also your family. It's also your friends. It's also our church. I mean, God bless the young moms in my church who had our first placement, because she was like pushy in the nursery. She would like hit him over the head with a toy and she just didn't know. And a lot of times it just was her autism and different things. And we had lots of conversations with them, and, just their willingness to have their kids just interact with a child who was not gonna listen, obey all the rules, it was really a beautiful thing. Yeah. For them as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we can never enter a place that is close to the heart of God and not be changed ourselves.
Yes.
Right. And how we need to be changed. Right. I mean, how much I would have missed, if our family was not what it is today. I mean, God has just been so good to us in the hard, in the where you feel like, I don't know what I'm doing, or this is way harder than I thought. Like, I cannot imagine had we said no. And I'm just so grateful that the Lord has gifted us with this opportunity. Like you said, an opportunity to love others and then therefore be changed ourselves as well.
Yeah, and just the idea that we can't, this will be too much. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it all. I am not super mom. Okay, I'm just honest. I am not even close. You may think so, hearing my story. No, There are times when I'm, crying. I'm like, my husband's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, it's the struggles are, and then it's like God reminds us, you can do this. I've given you the tools to do this. You're trying to do it on your own.
Yes.
Hello. What am I doing here? Yeah. And just the reminder that no, I'm best when I focus on Christ and what he's done and what he's called. Yes. And the fact is, the matter is, if you feel a tug toward fostering, follow it. It doesn't mean that you have to do it forever. It doesn't mean you have to say yes to every kid. But don't do it because you're scared, or you think you're not a super mom or a super dad, or you're worried about your own bio kids. I mean, don't do it because of fear. And your heart, we miss our first placement. We miss her terribly. And I'm sure anytime, but the thing that it's okay, because we're big people. And I read somewhere, and I don't remember who said this, that crying over your foster kid when they leave is such a gift we give our foster kids because so many times nobody has ever cried when they left. And that has stuck with me because I'm like, oh, right. It's okay that my heart hurts. It's okay. It doesn't mean that we don't, we'll always love all the kids that go through our home. And sometimes we even get to see them again. So quick story. So my mom got a call recently about a foster kid that they'd had as a baby who's now graduated from high school. It's been a long time. And she's like, I want to come see you. And I just thought, that's a great, wow.
Yeah.
As opposed to, because my mom's easy to find. She still lives in the same house that she's lived with since 1973. So same phone number, same everything. So it's not that hard to find her. But I just thought, what a precious gift that sometimes God gives us as foster parents, that we get to see this child that they had, I don't know, a few months when she was a toddler, a little before she was 1 year old.
Wow.
And she gets to see this beautiful young lady and, how she is today. I just thought that's just wonderful. And there's other children that my parents have seen again over the years and connected with again. And, this is before the internet and cell phones and everything made it easier to do that. And there's still kids who drop by her house. And, there's this one kid who really put her through the ringer with some stuff. And he comes with his wife and his kids now every once in a while to say hello. And just that reminder of God's goodness and the seeds that we plant in their little hearts, whether or not they can verbally tell us about Jesus or not, they come to fruition. There's that hope in there too. And I like to say, they know we're a Christian home.
Yeah.
They know we're taking our kids to church.
Yeah.
They know that we're praying for our kids, that we're telling them about Jesus. We make no bones about that, Jamie. And so we just figured, most people seem to be okay with that, surprisingly. And most bio parents are like our first placement's mom. She was glad. She's like, oh, good. You're not going to tell her about Santa Claus? Excellent. Tell her the true meaning of Christmas? Excellent. She had other challenges that meant that the girl couldn't return home, but she was happy about that. So we have ways of planting those gospel seeds in the child as well, that we may never know how that comes to fruition, but sometimes I get super excited to think about that. One day in heaven, I might, I'm sure my mom's going to meet all these kids who she helped and my dad too, and just be like, oh, this is what happened behind the scenes. So
I love that. Wow. Sarah, well, thank you so much for sharing your story, your perspective with us, and for the work that you continue to do. Thanks for being on today.
Well, thank you. As you can tell, I really love to talk about fostering. So
That's
thank you for
awesome.
having me.
Yes.
Well, I hope that today's episode encouraged you wherever you are on your foster care journey. We want you to stay connected, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you will never miss an episode. Also, we have great content at theforgotteninitiative.org. Thank you for watching. I cannot wait to be with you next time.